I am hitting record. We're going to start recording now.
I was thinking in getting my mind ready for this today, I kind of thought that I wasn't thinking of Marcielle at the time, but I really think that her memory is so fantastic when it comes to details. And so
I always wish you would not say that, because look at Terry and I have had an argument over 4409 West Chestnut, and he thinks it's 4404, and that sounds really weird.
No, it's two against one, Marcielle. He's not correct.
What?
So he is not correct. I agree. So what I was thinking is, to make it a little more organized, why don't we start with the memories mother shared with us, like when she was a girl, and then move to what we can remember about her and Daddy's young lives, and also Daddy. I guess we're talking about Daddy as well, and then move forward. Now that might, I'm not sure that that's the way to do it. Maybe just jumping around is, but what do you think, Marcielle?
Well, I'm just here. I'll do whatever. Dad's young life, though, he had a tough young life.
Yeah.
So
really
hey,
hard.
I want to just make a quick interjection here, just for documentation. This is March 22nd, the year 2022. I'm Arden Compton. Kamillia Compton Hardy is on, and Marcielle Compton Barney is on the phone. We'll hear her audio. And Lynaea Wilson Brand is also listening in and might say something from time to time. Anyway, just wanted to document that, that little thing. So go ahead though, Kamillia, sharing memories that Mom shared with you. That sounds great.
Artie, what I'm thinking is that there's this thing in front of me that says this meeting is being recorded, and I can't see you at all or anything except for that.
I'm here, and I don't know, somewhere on there should be something you can click on to say okay or something like that.
Okay, well, I'm gonna hit got it. Hope it goes.
Okay,
yes.
got it. That's what it says. Got it.
That's a sophisticated little phrase, isn't it? Got it.
Yes.
Anyway, well, I was thinking, Daddy told us a few things about his life, and we'd learned things from Aunt Barbara. And Marcielle, do you want to start with Daddy? And
no, you go ahead, because you know what you're talking about. What's on your mind, and I don't. I know Barbara told us things that I never realized towards the end of her life, when she had become bedridden, and she told us that she hated coming home from school because she could hear her parents, Grandma and Grandpa Compton, arguing and fighting, and she didn't like that. That's not a happy memory, but she did tell us that, and it surprised me. But I know that Dad had to look after his mother and sisters and defend them. You know, hello, what was that?
That is Leah joining us. So I'm also going to, just for documentation, just to be absolutely clear, when you guys refer to Dad or Daddy, that is Asa Berkeley Compton. Our mother is Mary Nola Chandler Compton. And just if anybody's ever listening at some point, they're like, wait a minute, who was their dad? That's who we're referring to. And Leah, welcome. Oh, I didn't know you had a baby, Leah.
Yeah, but I do have a baby Eli, my grandson. So.
My goodness.
Join in. Hi, Amelia.
Good to see you.
Very good. Wow, thank you.
Well, it's good to have you two girls so interested in family history, and I know that you're good writers.
Oh yes,
but
really good writers. But I can't Of course, I can't see Leah or any of the rest of you, but I also almost can't hear Leah.
Oh, hi, Aunt Marcielle. I can recognize your voice. I'll clear my audio. Is that better?
Not much.
That's better, but I don't know what you said. I
You're
just hear
you're a
you.
little, your audio's just not quite the best, but that's okay for now. Well, in fact, you just got worse.
Well, we all better hurry up and get in gear because I'm seeing on my TV the cooking channel, and I want to go buy a hot dog on a stick.
Marcielle.
Well, I haven't eaten yet.
Well,
today.
I just had a tortilla. That's it. Well, I'll go back to Daddy. The things that Daddy, and I, as I said before in my last recording, I so wished when Daddy was in the mood to talk about his life, and he became more so as time went on, and he'd come to visit and lie on the floor, you can picture that, and tell about his youth and about his dad. And I think he, as he got older, he was quite melancholy about his dad. And it's hard to think of Daddy as melancholy, but my experience with Daddy, the closer he came to dying, he became more and more talkative about his youth. So the things that, of course, are most troubling have to do with his father. And he seemed to be torn between loving his father and feeling embarrassed for his father and embarrassed because of his father. Daddy and his father were fishing together. And I might have this story a little bit wrong because it would be so much better if you were hearing Daddy tell it. But someone came along and wanted them to, someone came along who was kind of hard to get along with. And he had a gun, this person. And his father, and they were fishing. And I think this guy wanted them to stop fishing, to move on, to do something. And his father tried to stand up to this man, but didn't. And when Daddy told the story, you could tell that he was embarrassed for his father. And I think disappointed. He was just a boy. I don't know how old at the time. A happy memory he had was his father worked for the railroad, and they could, the kind of car that they had that you had to pump on the tracks. Can you picture this? You push forward and pull back and push forward and pull back. His father took him on that. I don't know how many times, but that was a pleasurable memory. But the worst part was Grandpa he was an alcoholic, and so was his brother Wally. And they both had quite miserable lives because of it.
And Grandpa is Ephriam John Compton. Is that right?
Is that right,
That's right.
Marcia? Okay.
Okay,
And
go ahead.
in any case, he seemed to be a very gentle man when he wasn't drinking. But when he was drinking, he could become quite dangerous. So on one occasion, he had a gun and he held the family at gunpoint. Barbara told this story as well. And she was terrified. She was in a bedroom next to where this was going on. And she was just a little girl. And Grandma on a number of occasions had to tell Daddy, Berkeley, go get Mr. Mudd. And so he was a next door neighbor who would come and somehow calm things down. So on this occasion, though, this was the last sort of binge that he went on before they took him to Salt Lake. for treatment. But before that, I guess there were a number of occasions. And Daddy was often sent to the railroad station where Grandpa worked to tell them his father was ill. But they knew, of course. And that was an embarrassment for Daddy, of course. The other thing is Grandpa had the familial tremor that some of us have, but he had it very badly. His head would shake. And he was very embarrassed to go to church because of his trembling. Some of the sweet things, well, one of the sweet things is Barbara talked about after Elliot died. Elliot had Bright's disease, and he didn't grow from about the age of 4, I think. Marcielle, correct me at any point.
Yeah, that's about right.
And so even though he was older than Daddy, he stayed a little boy. But Grandpa was very fond of Elliot. And when Elliot died, it was heartbreaking, no doubt for the family. But Barbara mentioned that she could remember her father sitting at the piano, playing it and singing something like "My Little Rosebud Has Gone Away." He was very sad. And speaking of Barbara again, after that holding the family at gunpoint, Barbara would have nothing to do with her father. And that was heartbreaking to him because he loved Barbara and she was just a tiny girl at that time. And Barbara had this guilt for the rest of her life, as she shared it, because she had not been able to warm up to her father because of that incident. But Daddy talked about going to the neighbors to listen to the ball games on what did they call the radio then? It was
I don't know.
A radio? I guess
no,
there's another.
it wasn't. It was kind of like there's a word for those earliest radios.
Did they call it a tube?
A wireless.
A wireless. Yeah, the wireless.
Maybe it was the wireless. I can't recall. It wasn't a tube. But anyway, he would go to the next.
Watching Downton Abbey, and they got a wireless in their castle.
Okay.
At one point.
So I guess it was a wireless, but he enjoyed going to the neighbors, and I don't know which neighbors, to listen to the wireless. And when he was a boy, they had a car that was quite nice, that had lanterns on both sides. I can't remember the details. It just, I think it was one of my greatest sins, sort of, to not have recorded Daddy telling these stories. But anyway, he built a playhouse. I think I said this before. It was a tree house in a field at the end of the street that they lived on. Marcielle, that street name?
3rd Street. I thought though that the playhouse there was a field right next door to the house. So I don't know where he built it, but we had a cow in the field next door, a cow or a calf or something. We used to ride it. Try to.
I think maybe you were always way more adventuresome than I was. I was probably playing paper dolls, but there was a field at the end of the street that was between the houses and the Galloway ditch that was beyond that field.
The Galloway ditch.
Right. And
Okay.
the Galloway ditch was named after some people in Weiser who probably were founders of some sort.
The Galloways, and they had a great big mansion of a house.
Yes,
not too far from.
Should I pull up a photo of the Galloway ditch? I have one.
Have you?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, while I'm pulling this up, I'm just going to diverge for just a second. You mentioned they had a car, and I remember Dad telling me about the first time he rode in a car that went 40 miles an hour. And
They really thought they were whizzing down the road.
they were, was like, wow, is our hair gonna catch on fire? I mean, they just, he just was astounded that a car could go 40 miles an hour.
Actually, when Carmen and I were courting, he took great pride in always driving 40 miles an hour. And actually, he didn't get over that.
I'm just gonna see if I can do a quick search. I'm gonna type in the word Galloway and see if it shows up. Oh, yes, it did. Wow, that was good. So there's Dad in front of the Galloway ditch.
Can you make it bigger for me?
Yeah, let me move your little pictures out of the way here. And actually, I gotta put this phone down for a second, Marcielle. But
Well, all right, me. I'm popping popcorn since I can't go get a wiener.
okay. Anyway, that is, oh, and then the words just popped up in front now too.
What is it? What does it say? Galloway Canal.
Galloway Canal, Weiser, and I wrote where Berkeley Compton was baptized.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's what somebody said that somewhere sometime. And so that's how I documented that photo.
That surprises me because what was the river behind our house, our little house, Marcielle? Monroe Creek. That seems to me a whole lot safer because the Galloway ditch was as I recall it, a rather swift and deep ditch.
Well, I put a question mark on my notation. I said where Berkeley Compton was baptized, question mark, because I don't have,
yeah,
I'm not 100% certain. So
and I don't, I'm just questioning it because there was the handy Monroe Creek that also got rather wild in the spring. But anyway,
okay.
I just wanted to mention that there was a tree, probably an old cottonwood tree that wasn't in good shape in that field. And what was left, the remnants of Daddy's treehouse were in that tree. And there were boards hammered, nailed to the tree to climb up to the treehouse. I don't know if I ever did or if we ever did, but I was just aware that Daddy, as a young man, had built that.
Okay, cool.
They lived in several houses. When they first moved to Weiser, he said they lived in a little house right by the railroad tracks somewhere in Weiser. And every time the train would go by, their house would shake. Which makes sense, doesn't it? A little old house. And in any case, Marcielle, can you add anything to Daddy's? I know he was a bowler and he used to go with his friends. Was it to Payette or was it to Boise, Marcielle?
Well, I don't know. You have a lot more memories than I do. But he played in a dance band with his clarinet.
He
Wow,
did.
I did not know that. And I knew that he liked
Daddy
bowling, but I didn't know so when you guys were kids, he went bowling a lot?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
And I was always a disappointment to Daddy. In the first place, when I was born, I was not a boy. That was my first big
Well,
disappointment.
even worse, when I was born, I was not a boy. That was even worse.
He probably, when I was born, apparently he had cigars ready to hand out, which I think he did anyway. But he was a bowler and he and his friends would drive in those cars that went 40 miles an hour to where it was either Payette or Boise to go bowling at night. And he was a very good bowler. And I think even won a few ribbons or something.
Well, when I was a kid, I remember as a young boy, there was a wall in our house, like a shelf that was just full of bowling trophies.
Yes, yes.
He had a lot of bowling trophies. And when we lived in Pleasanton, he and Mom would go bowling sometimes, not all the time, but one time he bowled a 298 which means he got a strike on every single frame except the last one.
Wow.
And it was like a big to-do, and they made a big celebration at the bowling alley. And this was one of the highest scores ever scored in their little bowling alley, a 298, because 300 is the best you can get.
Wow. I didn't know that. But
Anyway,
he
that's-
loved he loved bowling. He I don't know at what point he picked up tennis, but of course, you know, he loved tennis, and he was a really fine swimmer. So he was rather athletic, I would say.
Well, don't
And-
forget about tennis.
No, I just mentioned it, but I don't think. Do you know when he started playing tennis?
I don't know.
I don't either. I don't remember it when we were growing up. But at
But
some
there
point,
was a trophy among the boys and dad.
right? I think
that they-
David, he won it one year.
Did he? Well, great.
Yeah.
I don't think
And-
anybody hardly ever beat dad.
No, I don't think so either. He was really good and passionate about it. Well, let me get back to
Can I ask you a couple of questions about some of the things that you've mentioned? Can you hear me?
I can't understand you. I'm sorry.
you're really froggly or something, Leah.
I'm gonna
What was the question? Try it again.
Yeah, try it and see if we can repeat it coherently.
switch to a different device.
Okay, that's fine. So she's checking out. We'll check back in again.
Okay.
Oh,
So I can't think of anything else. And Marcielle, if you can't, I feel like you should be able to. Come on. Anyway,
I was
I'm-
I just finished popping my popcorn and I'm eating it while I'm listening.
well, you're not going to hear anything if you're crunching.
Can you guys
Well-
think of anything that kind of describes Grandpa Compton's relationship with his siblings? You know, how he
Yes.
felt about them, how they felt about him.
Well, I know that Barbara idolized him and she would do anything for Berkeley, she said. It seems to me she had some chocolate once and she either wouldn't eat it, she had to give it to Berkeley.
She
Or-
was older than Dad, is that right?
No, she was the baby.
Oh,
She was,
No.
okay, I get them mixed up.
And
well,
until
Lenny was the baby.
no, I know, until Lanny came along, she was the baby. And
Okay,
she adored Daddy, and she always spoke of him in such fond terms. And Daddy, I spoke very affectionately of what did I just say? The little boy's name who died,
Elliot.
Elliot. So I think I and that's about. Do you know more than that, Marcielle?
More than what?
Then well, I know that when we were little ourselves, we sometimes would go to Grandma's house, Grandma Compton, and Daddy and Lucille, I think, would sit at the piano together and play four-hand piano. Lucille was a very, very fine pianist and organist.
Oh,
And she actually went back to school and became the music teacher in that county, in Weiser. I guess it was in that county. Anyway, it was right close by. And of course, Daddy, as Marcielle mentioned, he did play in a dance band. Daddy played the piano very well. He played the saxophone and
Clarinet.
the clarinet. And the reason he ended up in the CCCs, which he did as a boy, I don't know, a teenager, he went to the CCCs to earn enough money to buy a clarinet.
oh,
And of course, the story that what happened to him in the CCCs is, as I recall it, They were working in the mountains, and everybody called Daddy Burke, even in our childhood, which always seemed wrong, but still. Anyway, he was working on a road of some sort, and a big boulder came down and hit him. Everyone thought he was dead.
The boulder laid on top of him. He was under the boulder, right?
He was under the boulder.
Well, actually, he wasn't on a road. They were in the mountains, and that boulder came down, but there was a dip in the, kind of
Marcielle,
hole there.
I'm trying
Kind
to
of
make
a hole.
I'm trying to make this suspenseful, Marcielle.
Sorry, but a road
You're-
is not suspenseful. They thought he was dead, and Grandma got that news that he was killed on the mountain, and then he showed up at the door.
That was a kind of Tom Sawyer story. He didn't attend his own funeral, but he was saved by the fact that there was a kind of a hole, and he was injured, but not badly. But I don't know if I can't recall if he actually made enough money to buy his clarinet or not. But when we were children in Toppenish, I don't remember a clarinet, but I remember a saxophone, Daddy playing the saxophone. There was a kind of a bad feeling between Mother and Barbara, because Barbara insisted that the saxophone was hers, and eventually it was sent to her, and that was it. But I don't.
Well,
that's what
I played the clarinet in the junior high school. It was a rented one, but I wanted to play the saxophone.
Oh, that's
And so
right.
Barbara already had it. Her kids had been using it, and she wouldn't send it to us and let me use it.
Okay, there you go. That's the story. But Daddy always loved music. He didn't have, as he put it, a native talent. He just
I
had
would say he did. He taught himself. He didn't have any lessons. He certainly had a native talent, I think.
I'm just saying what Daddy said. It was that he just, through his diligence and passion, but he surely did have, and being as Lucille also had it, and Barbara to some degree, and they loved dancing. All of them loved dancing. I don't know about Lucille, but Barbara absolutely loved dancing. She loved music, and Barbara had the most beautiful high soprano voice. And she loved to play the piano. And of course, Daddy loved dancing. Mother loved dancing. And it seems to me at that time, all the relatives we had at that time loved to dance. That was the big thing to do. Mother talked, well, so let's see, I've got to go back. Well, I'm sure I'll think of something, but at this moment, I know when we lived in Toppenish, she told us the story of, had he been a boy in the present day, which was in the 50s then, he would have been put in the penitentiary because he fell in love with his 5th grade, I believe, teacher. And he was always doing things that were not very law-abiding, I guess. Kind of a prankster. But in this case, I believe he stretched a wire or a rope or something from one desk to another across an aisle, so that when she walked by, she would trip, or I don't know exactly. Anyway, he was just trying to get her attention because he was in love with her. Anyway, I'm sure there are many stories that he could tell that I can't tell, and that's just too bad. Mother mentioned.
And there's a lot of stories that Robert could have told but would not tell on Dad.
Yeah, that's true.
Things
That's
that
what,
he knew about him when he was a teenager and the pranks he used to pull.
that's true.
Kamillia, with Elliot, with his younger brother Elliot, you said that he didn't grow much after the age of 4.
Or something like
Right.
that.
So
Yeah.
So mentally, emotionally, was he able to mature, but it was just that his body didn't grow?
Correct.
Okay.
And he died very young, right? He didn't
He
quite.
was just about 8. They were going to baptize him. They had the plans all ready and everything, and then he hadn't had his birthday, and he died.
Wow.
And as I understand it, that was one of Grandpa's griefs, is that he
Yeah,
didn't
right.
live long enough to be baptized.
Uh,
Anyway,
One other question, when Grandpa's dad, that was Ephriam.
Ephriam
Yeah.
John,
Ephriam John Compton.
So when he went to Salt Lake City for treatment for his alcoholism, how did that go?
well,
Very badly.
Not well.
They
That's when he
took
died.
him there.
Oh,
Dad and Grandma took him there and put him in the hospital, LDS hospital. But everybody knows that he jumped out the window or off the roof or something and killed himself.
no, I didn't know that.
actually,
Okay.
Huh?
the way Karen tells it is much more grisly than that.
Much more what?
But I think we'll just stick with he jumped out the window, but grisly.
Oh, grizzly.
It seems to me, but yeah. In any case, he committed suicide. And I'm, we've seen just a very few pictures of him, and Daddy looked a lot like him.
Absolutely.
And of course,
So much like him.
I impose on him, I suppose, things I don't have a right to, but it seems to me he was a tender soul who simply had alcoholism. And in those days, they used alcohol a lot as a medicine. And Daddy mentioned hot toddies. And I suppose you might know what those are.
No, what's a hot toddy?
It's whiskey and lemon juice and honey.
Okay.
And actually that was recommended by a doctor when David had a terrible cold, chest cold and so on. And I said, well, we don't drink alcohol. And he said, I had a choice of my son coming to the hospital with pneumonia or drinking alcohol. Anyways, so Carmen went out and got some whiskey and we mixed it up, and David didn't cough and he slept the best he had slept for the longest time. So that remained a medicinal in our house until Robin started asking for it, pretending she had a sore throat. So, anyway, but it was typical in those days to use alcohol as a medicine. And so I think that was Daddy's point, that Wally and his father became alcoholics because of it. But he did say something about poor Uncle Wally once. And I don't know his history, his story at all. But anyway, I think of him as a gentleman. Now,
So his problem with alcohol began because it was recommended medicinally at first.
This is what I think Daddy thought. So how's that?
Okay.
Yeah, but I did want to say that, and this is not a secret, of course. Grandpa was in love with his cousin, and I believe, in any case, he remained in love with his cousin, and so.
What was his cousin's name? Do you know what cousin it was?
I don't.
Okay.
But grandma's family were the Childs. Grandpa's were the Comptons, and the Childs and Comptons were already intermarried. Aunt Maud was married to Asa Child. Aunt Maud Compton was married to Asa Child, and they were already married. and they wanted our grandpa and our grandma to marry. And the family, apparently the Compton family, was very much against grandpa marrying his cousin. So it ends up that grandma and grandpa were married, but it was not a happy marriage. And
Did not know that.
at some point, grandma discovered, I think his cousin's picture fell out of his wallet, and grandma saw it. Or in some way, grandma knew that he had the cousin's picture in his wallet. So, that's not a really good setting for a happy marriage. And grandma was quite fashionable. If you see the photos of her when she was younger, when she had little children, she was dressed to the nines, don't you think, Marcielle? She wore a pretty hat and very nice clothes. And in Weiser, there was, what was the name of the island?
Oh, I can't think of it. It was in the river, the Weiser River.
It was where the Weiser and the Snake come together. Oh, it's Mortimers Island.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It was just beyond the railroad tracks, just beyond the railroad station. And so in those days, it was a place of entertainment. They had a silent movie theater, they had merry-go-round, they had just lots of things to do. So grandmother would take Daddy and his siblings to Mortimers Island, and they would play while she would go in and watch the silent movies.
She loved the movies.
She did. And she loved the radio. And so did Daddy, actually. There are some programs that Bob and Ray, you should look it up. It's quite funny. And of course,
Well, it hasn't been, we've heard them recently.
Recently?
Bob and Ray.
Well, they've
Probably
died.
not, maybe not in the last 20 years. But I think Dad and I used to listen to them in the car.
Really? They had
I
to
don't
be
know, I
really,
could be wrong.
they had to be
But
really
pretty
old.
soon I have to go and to shop before it's too dark for me to drive.
So,
Can't you
Well,
do-
I drive when it's dark, but it's probably not the best idea. But I
How
do.
about doing that tomorrow?
Oh, well,
Come on, sister dear. You know, I'm looking at my own face and I'm thinking it's you, and I smile at myself and I think it's you. So, and yet it's not you, but you look like me a little bit, at least.
I can't always tell if it's you or me in some of the photos.
I know.
well, that's good. I'm glad I'm not the only one that has trouble figuring out photos.
Yeah, true. Anyway, so going back to
I do have a photo of where the Weiser and the Snake River comes together. If you want to see a photo
Really?
of, yeah.
and Mortimer's Island.
I don't know about if Mortimer's Island is right there. Let me.
It's probably taken from Mortimer's Island.
Well,
And
it's a photo that was taken at Grandma Chandler's funeral.
Yes, so that would be,
So
Yep.
hang on, I gotta make this smaller so I can, it's not
So-
going down in size here, so I can navigate a little better. Come on.
so that's when Daddy and Mother took us on the tour. And I remember we went to Mortimer's Island.
Oh,
Well, I lived in Belgium at the time, so I was going on a different kind of tour, probably
Yes,
to
you were.
Italy or somewhere. But so Lynaea and Leah, I'm wondering if this is interesting to them or if they have some questions.
This is fascinating to me. And I do have questions, but I don't want to interrupt and throw off the chain of memories too much. I think Marcel was starting to talk about our grandpa's, your dad's mother, and I was curious because Kamillia, you described somewhat his relationship with his dad. What was his relationship with his mother like, do you think?
She
I
was,
think she idolized him just like Barbara did.
yes, she did.
I think that Berkeley could do no wrong.
Oh, his mom idolized him. Okay.
Yes, yes.
What about her?
I think he loved his mother. She lived with us off and on over the years. And I don't remember, there wasn't a lot of affection in that family. So I can't remember hugs and kisses. But, and I know that when she made her living after Grandpa died, doing ironing and washing and babysitting for people. And she was very social. She made friends wherever she went, and she kept her friends over the years as well. Am I looking at Daddy on the left?
No, so on this, what we got here is that's Terry. Yeah, that's Terry, Chad, and then there's Dad in the
Mhm.
middle, and then there's me and Joseph Alden.
Okay.
And
Where
I've been,
are you? What's the occasion? Where
well,
are you?
we're standing on the bank of a river, and I was told this is where the Weiser and the Snake River comes together. So I don't know about the Mortimer Island, if that's one of these lines of trees that I see over on one side or the other, or I don't know.
I think you're standing on it.
Oh, we're
On-
standing on Mortimer Island.
Yes, and on one side is Oregon, and on one side is Idaho.
Okay,
And I can't tell you which is which, but it's a really wide spot in the rivers because they do come together there.
right. So I'm gonna make a note on here. Kamillia says we are standing on Mortimer Island. I don't know if I spelled Mortimer correct or not, but anyway, okay.
And it always was said Mortimers, but I don't know if there's an apostrophe S or if Mortimer is okay. I don't know.
Oh,
I'm sure.
okay.
I'm sure. Now, there is a little book that I got, a copy for Marcielle, a copy for Anita, and a copy for me on the history of Weiser. And somewhere in my house, I have my copy. That would be a really interesting thing for you to have, Artie, because
Okay,
it has so much about the early history of Weiser. It was down by the river. It caught fire and said it moved the town and so on. Anyway, I won't be able to find it here because I can't see well enough, but I'll have Marcielle do that when she's here.
okay.
Well, of course, I've been uprooted and I've never been really unpacked and moved into this place here. A lot of my stuff is up in the loft in boxes. So I don't know if I could find my copy or not, but I'll look.
Okay,
That would be nice.
I've read it from cover to cover at least once. And it's very interesting to me.
It is local history, especially when it deals with your family. So I guess, girls, you need to know, Leah and Lynaea, that Weiser, Marcielle and I both felt it belonged to our family because there were so many family members who lived there at that time. The Comptons.
So many Chandlers and some Comptons. Way less Comptons than Chandlers.
That's true, but nevertheless, and it sort of felt like it was the Chandler town, didn't you think?
Yeah, I thought it belonged to the Chandlers.
And of course,
Did it belong to the Childs too? Or was Polly exotic?
no, not really. An interesting thing is Grandpa, your grandpa, our father, came from Ogden, Utah, and his family were all located in, and Grandma, the Childs and the Comptons were located. Marcielle can tell us specifically what those little towns were. What were they,
It's
Marcielle?
in Riverdale. In Riverdale, the Childs mostly settled Riverdale.
Oh,
A
really?
lot of, yeah.
You know, so when we drive our car, we can see sort of a satellite view of what we're driving through.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's marked. It's really random what shows up. You know, some places have names, but most places don't. And there's a Child's subdivision that
Really?
labeled that in Old Ogden. Yeah. Yep.
Hmm.
I've been curious about
Well,
that.
there's a street, there's a Child Street. I wonder what, we're speaking of an old neighborhood. Is that right?
I ran into a guy in the Ogden area who had the last name of Childs, and we did some double checking. I think we were related back somehow to Myron Barber Child.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And the Barbers, the Barbers, that's a name in our family history as well.
Right.
So the Childs, that was Grandpa's mother's maiden name was Childs?
Yes.
Oh,
It-
okay.
it- Without an S, Child.
Oh. Child. And Grandpa married a Chandler. So did he grow up knowing, I mean, your dad married Mary Nola Chandler. Did he grow up knowing her because they were in Weiser?
No, I was
No.
getting to that. I'm a slow storyteller.
Oh,
Go ahead,
no.
Marcielle.
Interrupting.
They met,
Yeah.
at the high school. The story I remember is that Mother was at a basketball game in Weiser High, and Dad walked in with some friends, and she pointed him out to her friend and said, "I'm going to marry that guy."
I don't think that's how she said it, Marcielle.
That's what I remember, and she met him and married him.
True, but I think she said, "There's the man I'm going to marry."
Whatever.
Anyway, yeah, whatever.
So
And-
so hang on, let's back up a little bit more. So the some of our family, when coming back to originally in Utah, settled over in Millville, and that was
Also, the Chandlers and the Hoveys and the Hoveys.
right. The Chandlers and the Hoveys were over in Millville. The Comptons were in Ogden,
Yes, so
And-
here's, so
and
here's,
then they all ended up migrating and met up in Weiser.
so that's the story, only I'd like to tell it a little differently.
Go ahead.
I would like to say that it is interesting. At that time, people were wandering around, either looking for work or looking for places to farm. And of course, the railroad was a big thing in the lives of the Comptons because they were from Ogden. I don't know that that's why, but Grandpa was employed by the railroad. And so that took him to different places, including Weiser. And there were other towns in Idaho that they ended up as well, but I cannot remember those towns. McCall maybe was one of them.
Twin Falls is, they did
Oh,
live in Twin Falls at one time.
Okay, but they ended up in Weiser, and the Chandlers, now the Percy, Chandler, and Hazel Hovey married in Millville, or were from
Oh.
Millville.
So, and Millville is right by Logan, just for reference.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who married on Adair. And they
Whoa,
were,
whoa, whoa, whoa! They married on grandma. Who married on Adair?
Grandma and Grandpa Chandler.
Really?
That's the
Percy and
story.
Hazel.
I've heard that.
I never heard
Yes.
that.
Yeah, and I heard it, and then from Uncle Bert, Grandma's brother, he also said it, and he
Really?
also said what wonderful dancers they were and how brilliant Percy was.
Who made the
Anyway.
dare?
Excuse me?
They're friends.
Who dared them to get married?
Oh, I have no
Some
idea.
of their friends did. I don't know why.
It just astounds me that somebody would get married on a dare. That's
Well,
just
the other astounding thing is someone would take them up on it.
right.
So anyway, the Hoveys and Chandlers got together in Millville. The Comptons and Childs got together in, help me again, Marcielle, I can never remember the name of that town.
Riverdale.
In Riverdale. But
Okay.
I don't know when Grandpa's Percy George and Ada Whitney, when did they go to Weiser, I wonder? And there is a road, Chandler Road, in Weiser, and Chandler Lane, I guess it's called.
Right.
And they had quite a farming concern there in Weiser.
Yes, they owned a fair amount of land. And so Grandpa and Grandma wandered around, ended up in Portland. And there are some beautiful love letters that now I have no idea where they are, between Grandma and Grandpa.
Like
and
Grandma and Grandpa, which ones are you referring to?
Chandler,
Chandler.
Hazel and
Percy
Percy.
and Hazel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some very tender letters about the children, and Percy misses them and kiss the children for me and stuff like that. And something happened to that marriage that made it a very cantankerous and unhappy marriage. And that's the part Mother remembered. And Mother had very bad feelings toward her father and toward men generally. And Grandma Compton had very bad feelings about men. The only man she really thought was worth it was our father. And of course, ultimately Lanny. But it is a bit of a concern about Lanny because he lived with us quite a bit and Grandma would be off somewhere else. So in any case, Berkeley could do no wrong. And I don't know what man Grandma Chandler loved particularly. But it's so sad. I mean, I have since finding that out so many years ago, when I thought, and I know Marcielle did too, that we had the most loving family, most loving grandparents. They created such a wonderful space for us of wonderful food and fun, and to find out that they didn't get along. And because of something that happened in the past, Nita said she didn't know. Mother said she didn't know. There was a suspicion on the part of the Chandlers. This is what Mother said. And Nita says poo-poo, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Mother is the only blonde, blue-eyed child. Otherwise, they all have reddish auburn hair and dark brown eyes. Eyes the color.
Except Wallace didn't have red hair. I don't know about his eyes. We'll have to ask Vicky. I just talked to her the other day.
That would be
called.
nice. Yes, that would be
Huh?
that would be good to know. He had blonde, wavy hair. And
Yeah.
how about Robert? Robert had brown eyes, but I don't know. In any case, though, the Chandlers apparently, according to Mother, thought Mother was an illegitimate child. Now, she wasn't. She looked a lot like her dad. And he had reddish hair and blue eyes and a fair skin. So in any
That's
case,
me. Red hair, blue eyes.
there you go. And handsome fellow. Yes, indeed. And our grandpa was handsome, and his brothers were, his sisters were not very pretty, but his brothers were handsome fellows. Anyway,
I'm not ready for all these details, Kamillia. You're way past me in memory.
oh,
I
well, I thought you were going to tell me to not have so many details in this. If David
but
would,
I don't remember all these details.
well, you remember that Grandma and Grandpa didn't get along, and that was kind of a shock.
Oh, I know, and I know that there's some mystery because their letters were so wonderful. And we read those at Nita's. And
Yes.
then, but what happened? We don't know what happened, but Grandpa owned our school. Across the street.
That's Grandpa Chandler.
Yes,
Yeah. Oh.
the east side.
Before you jump from those letters, do you know the time period that they were written in?
They were written, Grandma, your grandmother, our mother, was born in 1918. And they were written before that time,
Okay.
I would say, because something of the tragedy of their early lives was they lost a son to, was it diphtheria, Marcielle?
Yes, Richard died of diphtheria and
Yeah,
Bruce died of pneumonia.
but Bruce died at the end of their reproductive lives, and Richard was early. And somewhere there is a beautiful, just a paragraph that was found in one of Grandma's books, where she writes how much she misses her Richard. Now, our mother was born, that mother was the next baby. And I don't know how much after Richard she was born.
It was, I remember looking at that recently. He died like early summer or late spring, and Mom was born the next December.
Mm.
So she
Right.
would have been pregnant with Mom when Richard died.
Okay. Well, we don't know what happened, but that was a great sorrow to Grandma. Her little beautiful boy. And the pictures of him, he was a beautiful boy, wasn't he?
You want me to pull up a picture of him?
Sure.
Okay, hang on. I had a clipboard up, was taking notes, but let me see if I can. Let's see here. I gotta hit screen share. Oh, too many things are popping up. Okay, share screen. Share. Oh, look, I'm already in photos. Good, but let's go. So that's
see
him right there.
Yes, there he was.
So
So
how old was he when he died?
Maybe 4. Do you know, Marcielle? Well, you can
let's
see
see.
it.
This says Richard Chandler, age 3.
Hmm.
So
And
right.
who's next to him? The baby next to him.
Maxine, let's see, there is Kenneth and Maxine and Richard. So this is Maxine, the little girl.
So Richard was older than Maxine.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, and Kenneth, of course.
Yeah, Kenneth is the older one there. I'm gonna back up a little further. There's the whole family. This is the same photo setting. You can tell by what they're all wearing. So there's.
Can you make it slightly bigger?
Let me push
I don't think I've seen this photo with all of them.
Artie, are you putting this on Family Search, or is this your own? So
pretty sure.
if I went onto Family
I'm
Search.
trying to do both.
Yeah.
This right here is in Google Photos. I am. Oh, Marcielle, you just entered. What?
Well, I did, and then I went away again.
No,
I
I
saw myself.
I just clicked to let you enter. I'm gonna hang up the phone now.
I see you, Marcielle, and you don't look like me. It's not me anymore.
Okay, so I hung up the phone. Anyway, so I am entering many of these into both Family Search and the Google Photo thing. I don't remember specifically this one. I've done so many, it's a blur in my mind.
Artie, can you send that photo to me, to my email? I'd like to put that in my photos.
Okay, so Kamillia, I shared with you the Chandler folder, the Chandler line folder.
Yeah.
It's in there,
Um,
but I can send this individually to you if you want.
if you would, because I'm so inept, as well as not being able to see very well. So I would love to see that one.
Okay, I'm
I'd
trying to
love-
make it
Kamillia?
smaller again.
Mhm.
Kamillia, did I hear you say that Grandpa Percy was a redhead?
Yes.
He
Wasn't
had
he
red hair?
Marcielle? Are you there? Marcielle, is she gone?
She's sitting there. Maybe she's froze up. Maybe.
Maybe does she have her audio on?
I just.
Kamillia, did I hear that Grandpa Percy redhead?
Marcielle,
Oh, there's that picture.
Marcielle, do you remember him as having had red hair?
Hang on, I'm getting Marcielle on the phone. I'm trying to put it on speakerphone because her audio is not coming through.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Marcielle? Okay, well, hang on. My speakerphone button isn't working for some reason.
Hmm.
Come on, go. Okay, Marcielle, I'm gonna hang up and call you again. I put you on mute because I could tell that your audio is not coming through. Okay, I've called you again. What is my phone doing? It is not
He
letting
seems
me put you on speakerphone. That is so weird. Okay, I'm hanging up because it doesn't. I'll unmute you. Let's see, it says ask to unmute. Okay, somehow Marcielle, I thought I muted you, but I can't unmute you. I will
Darn.
try calling you one more time. My phone is, every time I hit speakerphone, it just, there we go. Okay, I got you on speakerphone, Marcielle.
She doesn't know that yet.
No, she hasn't answered her phone yet, but then once she answers once you answer your phone, well, let's see what happens.
I think she went off to get a corn dog.
No, she's sitting right there.
Hello?
Hey, sister, are you trying to get away?
Okay, we're creating an
Okay,
echo. So Marcielle, you need to somehow mute the sound coming into your computer or we're gonna have an echo going the whole time.
Well.
You can just-
delay also. Oh, boy, that is confusing. Ing, ing. Let's see here. I need to hang up my phone,
Okay,
I think.
okay, but then we can't hear you. You need to unmute your microphone or something because we don't hear you on the computer.
Well, I don't know where the microphone is on the computer.
That looks like my sweet husband.
I'm tired.
Yeah, so I just sent you the other photo too, Kamillia.
Thank you, Artie, very much. Well, Lynaea, to answer your question, I believe grandmother had very dark hair. I don't think it had any auburn in it, and she had dark eyes. And grandpa had, now I don't know that I actually can see his red hair because by then he maybe didn't have it, as you know, or maybe I just don't remember, but that's what I always understood. And so there are auburn haired people in our family, including,
All I've ever seen is black and white photos.
yeah, but Nita's hair was rather auburn-ish. Kenneth's hair was very red. His son Larry's was very red. And of course, we have redheads in our family. So that's my memory. And Grandpa was very fair. And in his later years, not so much late actually, he struggled with skin cancer on his ears. And Marcielle was talking about Grandpa owning the school. Grandpa was the janitor of both the grade school, which was called East Side School, or the Longfellow School, and Weiser High School. And that was just part of the world we lived in. And the school was kitty corner from Grandma and Grandpa's house. Grandpa had beautiful, that's a picture of Grandpa and Anne and me.
And the school.
At the school. We're standing on the railing that we loved to flip over. Anyway, that's the way Grandpa always dressed. Always. And we do look like ragamuffins, but that was rather the style then.
So how would you describe how he's dressed? Because
So this,
his dress is vintage enough to me. Is this like work clothes? I mean, it
Yes.
doesn't look like a suit. Definitely
No.
work clothes.
so hang
His
on. So this is Grandpa Chandler. So what was his first name again?
Percy George.
No, just
Oh, I don't know. We need Marcielle back.
yeah, it's Percy. Percy George was his father. He was just Percy.
Okay.
Oh, hang on. I'm gonna have to decline that call.
When you say that you flipped over this rail, I'm just picturing little girls hanging by their knees and swinging upside down. Is that what you mean?
Yes. Or turning all the way over, hanging on, having it right at your stomach and hanging on to the rail and then flipping over.
Yeah.
That was our school. And one of the things, besides the fact that Grandpa was the janitor and he had beautiful lawns and a gorgeous rose garden, my teacher, my second grade teacher, and Darlene was in my class, I believe, my cousin, that would be Maxine's daughter. We had Miss Bora as our teacher, and Miss Bora taught our mothers in school before us. So there was, it was family in a sense everywhere. The other thing is I have very fond memories of going with Grandpa to clean the schools inside, to polish the floors, to wash the blackboards. And I can just remember standing around while he talked to the teachers who were still sitting at their desks, doing things. In fact, I wrote the first part of my autobiography, which I shall be happy to share, because it does have to do with these years, my memories of these years. It doesn't say all the things that I've said about the Comptons and their troubles, or the Chandlers and their troubles. It's just the memories of me as a little girl and what life was like for me then. Grandpa had a very nice relationship with the teachers, as I recall. There are his parents.
Yeah,
Ada Henrietta Whitney.
that's Percy George Chandler
Mhm.
and Ada Henrietta Whitney. So Percy George Chandler is my great grandfather.
Yes, he was our great grandfather, and then Ada Henrietta Whitney was our great grandmother. And
Right.
according to Nita, they both had beautiful voices, and she was on very good terms with them, and apparently our mother was not. But anyway,
So Percy George and Ada Henrietta had beautiful voices.
yes.
Okay.
And Nita could remember as she shared, and I think that the recording of her probably talks about this. She's on occasion would stay overnight with them, and she remembers them sitting at the piano playing and singing. And of course, she was a little girl, so maybe she didn't really know what a beautiful voice was, but she thought they had beautiful voices. And we've since learned, I think, that the Whitneys had beautiful voices, haven't we? That and some of the history we've been seeing of late.
I don't know. I feel bad. We've kind of lost. We got Marcielle's video, but now we don't have Marcielle audio.
She probably hasn't. She probably needs to tap on that.
She needs to
So
unmute.
I know there was an ancestress, Artie, you're in there, Fanny Wall, married,
Yes.
I believe, a Whitney. Does that sound familiar? And so she and him, that marriage, she was a pioneer woman, and he was a man, a Mormon mountain man. And their courtship was a lot about singing together, and they were
Really?
requested. By request, they were invited to perform for different groups and stuff, and it was something that they bonded over a lot. Ultimately, she divorced him after she had like 10 kids with him. At that time, that's kind of interesting to me. But she taught piano, like she taught herself, it sounds like. And I can't remember that she taught voice, but she did teach piano.
Huh.
I kind of think that like you could see some, a culture starting there maybe.
Yes. And I think music was really important to the Comptons, and in a different way, perhaps because I don't remember in the Chandler household a lot of music. I just know that they all loved to dance. In the Compton household, there was a piano, and I do remember our father and Aunt Barbara not singing, but playing the piano together and having a lot of fun. And then, of course, Lucille became a piano teacher and taught music in the schools. And of course, that's a whole different line. That's the Compton line. But in our family, there is music, obviously. And in our family, there is this great love of dancing as well. Just ask Artie.
I do love to dance. I'm not so good with music, but I do love to dance.
And he was kind enough to give me a lesson when he was here last.
Yes. And dance, not music.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I wish we could get Marcielle back. And
I can see her.
I can't.
She's just muted.
She just needs to tap on her microphone so we can hear her.
Yeah, I think she needs to hit audio. Or
if you go down to if you move your little mouse to the bottom of the screen, you'll see at the bottom left a little microphone. Marcielle should pop up that you can tap on.
Can she hear you?
I'm guessing she can hear us, but
I'm pretty sure she can hear.
She's muted.
Tell her how to go to the bottom of her screen.
I just did.
No, I mean, I tell her how to go.
Do you know how to move the cursor?
Move your mouse cursor thing to the bottom of the screen, and on the left, you should see a little microphone icon. It looks like a little microphone, and if you tap on that, it should unmute it. See, I can mute me, and then I unmuted me. But
oh, darn it. I'm sorry. Well, I don't know if we should end here or if I should give you some of Mother's memories that she shared.
You know what? Let's end for now, and we'll just kind of have this be a chapter mostly on Dad. And let's do this again sometime soon, and have the focus be on Mom.
Hello.
Oh, well, hey, there's Marcielle.
What? Marcielle. Hi, Marcielle.
What?
Okay,
Working.
Okay, Marcielle, you know what? You are so froggy. We can't
But now I
understand you,
don't have any
Marcielle.
pictures.
And Marcielle, just can you either turn off your phone or turn off your computer, whichever one you're not using?
Well, it says Marcielle's network bandwidth is low. I'm not sure why we're having problems there, Marcielle. But let's call it
Okay.
let's call it good for now.
Artie, can I just ask one more follow-up question that's about grandpas?
Yes.
We'll be switching next time.
Okay.
Did you hear that?
I heard.
No. Can you repeat it?
Yeah, I'm wondering, I wanted to ask one more question that was about something you mentioned about grandpa.
Oh, well, that's okay. That's my problem.
Can
Okay, Marcielle, I muted you this time.
It
It says Mark is low. We're really just out of sync here. Okay. All right, Leah, what's your question?
I just wondered with grandpa, with your dad, once his dad passed away, you mentioned how his mom made a living. She would do laundry and clean houses and babysit. Did grandpa, he was the oldest son. I mean, your dad was the oldest son, Berkeley, right?
Yes.
Did he help when his father passed away? Was he still living at home? Did he help financially? Did he help provide for his younger siblings and his mom at all after his dad died?
I can't answer that. I can only say that Lanny lived with us from time to time, and so did Grandma. And Grandma lived with us when we were in Toppenish, and then she lived in a small house in Toppenish after she wasn't living with us. But Lanny had been with us for a number of months. And when we were in Anaconda, Lanny lived with us for a period of time.
And
And
Lanny
Grandma-
was just like 5 years older than you or something like that. Is that right, Kamillia?
He was 3 years older.
3 years older than you.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And Grandma, when Daddy was in the service, Grandmother let us live in her house in Weiser if we would take care of Lanny, so, or if Mother would. And so that's what happened there. She went to Chicago to live with Barbara, who was newly married to Don Adams. And Don Adams was stationed there because he was in the Navy and the Great Lakes were right close by. So, and Grandmother lived with Don and Barbara off and on over the years too. And so did Lanny. So Daddy, I know, sent money when she was older and ill to her. And she lived with our family when they lived back east. Artie, you probably remember that. Grandma Compton living with you.
I have no memory of that. I didn't know that.
And she was very ill, and Mother brought her back with her potions and health food and stuff like that. So I think there was some, but I can't speak to that for sure. We were always very poor ourselves, very poor. Mother very often would say, I don't know where the next meal is coming from. And she hated hearing the phone ring because she was afraid of bill collectors. And we had furniture repossessed. Daddy bought a vacuum cleaner, which was quite a novelty. We sucked each other's hair and all kinds of things. It was such a fun toy, but it was repossessed in Toppenish. So life was very different for those of us. The first 5 or 6 or 7, Afton was 5, Nancy was 6. I don't know how much Nancy remembers of our poverty, but
she describes being really impoverished.
yeah,
And I think like I can see a fingerprint on it. I can see the effects.
I'm gonna get rid of my son here.
Uh-oh.
Oh, she's gone. She said she's gonna get rid of her son and she got rid of us.
Oh, okay. I had one other question, Artie, maybe you know, and if not, maybe it could be saved for another time, but so your dad's dad went to Salt Lake to a rehab place that was apparently associated with the church.
I guess it was LDS hospital from what they said.
Oh, okay. And so what was your dad's experience in terms of religion growing up?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. So maybe that's a question I can ask Kamillia another time.
My impression was that when he and my mom, oh, Camillia's coming back. Here's Kamillia. But my thought, welcome back, Kamillia. And Marcielle is still there, but now we don't see her or hear her. Marcielle, hang up from Zoom and I'll call you back on the phone. That was better that way.
So I'm back.
Anyway, so Leah was wondering what was Dad's experience with religion growing up? Were they active LDS? Were they not? And I don't know.
I think they were active. Daddy smoked when he was a young man. He talked about
smoking when they got married for a few years.
Yeah.
Oh, we got Marcielle's audio back on the phone. Okay.
But I think they were quite religious. Dad used to say, I think they went to church. What do you know, Marcielle?
Well, I don't know. Oh, heavens.
You need to turn off Zoom, Marcielle. Close your laptop.
Hey, now what?
Now just talk.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Yes.
you. That's good. And there's no more echo.
Okay. I don't think Dad was really religious when they got married, obviously. And we were little kids when they finally went to the temple. Was I maybe 5 or 4? Kamillia?
Maybe.
Hello?
I'm here. I just don't have a date on that. Daddy had come home from the service. So I think you were a little older than that. Daddy came home from the service and I was in the 3rd grade. So how old would you have been? You were in the 2nd grade.
I don't know, but I was little and I remember new anklet socks and new underwear, and that I went to bed.
Now, Marcielle, was this having to do with them going to the temple? Do you remember this in relation to?
That's how I'm thinking. And we rode the train from Weiser to Salt Lake, and what a scary experience that was.
Marcielle and I kept trying to keep the train from tipping over by standing on it when it go around a curve.
or if we went around long by the Salt Lake.
I don't remember that.
Huh?
I don't remember that.
Well, anyway, lots of water.
You succeeded. The train didn't derail, so you did a good job.
We saved a lot.
I remember staying at Aunt Maud and Uncle AC's house in Salt Lake, and and jumping on the bed
on the porch. There was a bed on the porch, and Marcielle and I have tried to find that house with Barbara's instructions on how to find it, but we have not been able to. But as little girls, well, I guess Mother and Daddy were in the temple. I don't know. We jumped on the bed and we could see the temple from there, couldn't we?
Yes, wow. But actually, I have driven Barbara by the house.
Oh, really?
Years ago, when she was still sort of up in the, she hasn't been up and about for a lot of years, but she hasn't been down either. But I drove by the house, but I could never find it now.
No, I think you and I did try and we weren't able to. But
Well, all we need is an address, because we have Siri and Google now.
that's true. Well, Salt Lake was very different then. There was
Well, of
Temple,
course.
and the houses, neighborhoods were right up to the town. And so even when Carmen and I were courting in about 1953, when we walked around after conference one night, we were walking by yards, little picket fences, and we weren't far from the big hotels downtown. It was just much more of a community than a big city at that time. So
Right.
wouldn't you say, Marcielle, that Aunt Maud and Uncle Ace's house was right close to town?
Well, it seemed like it had to been not too far because we could see the temple. But Salt Lake has changed so much in just the last 20 years that I don't know my way around and it hasn't remained in square blocks, that's for sure. So you can no longer just find your way, not get lost there. You can get lost, except we have the mountains to use to tell us which direction to go. But anyway.
So when
Whatever.
when your parents were sealed in the temple, you and the two of you were there. Were any other siblings?
Terry
also-
and Bruce would have been.
Afton, if it was after the war, Afton would have been there.
Yeah, Afton would have been there.
And I'm not so sure that it was after the war, but that's what Kamillia says, so.
Well, I think somehow I feel like when Daddy came home from the service, I can't be certain. I'm sure we can look at it. Isn't that on the gravestone when they were sealed?
I don't know. I could probably look it up on Family Search.
And we-
Well, I could run downtown tomorrow and look at the stone.
Okay, do that, sister.
Okay. Well, it's too dark now for me to go get a wiener, what do you call a wiener on a stick? So I'm gonna have to think of something else, but I haven't really eaten yet today.
Neither
ate
have
a little
I.
bit of that Honey spaghetti.
I have 2 hard-boiled eggs that are cold by now. But anyway, we're not impoverished. We just don't like fixing food. There's no sweet husband for me to fix food for, and that changes everything. Anyway, it's been so fun sharing these memories, and
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
I really
Yes.
feel obliged in a certain way. I don't want to say it. It doesn't feel like a duty. It just feels like I don't want our ancestors to be forgotten,
Yeah.
including Mother and Daddy, but as much
Yeah.
as we can remember of their ancestors, which isn't a lot, but it's something anyway.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I've really enjoyed the flavor of how you shared the little interjections from Marcielle, how you two talk with each other and see each other's memories and what you're remembering. This is really precious to me. Thank you so much.
Well,
Looking
thank
forward
you.
to
That's really sweet of you.
What,
I would-
Marcielle?
What? I just
What
said
did you
thank
say?
you. I think I recognize Lynaea's voice.
Yes.
That was really kind of you to say nice things.
Yes, that makes you a real Compton.
Since Lynaea said it so well, I will just second her expression of gratitude and just thank you so much, Artie, for including us in this. It warms my heart. It just lifts my soul to see your faces. I know, Marcel, we just got a glimpse of you, but even a glimpse and hear your voices and hear these memories. It's wow. It's just there's a powerful feeling about it. So thank you so much for being so generous with your time and searching back in your hearts and your minds to share these treasures. It's been delightful. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're just so welcome, Leah. And Artie, I want to thank you again and again and again for doing this. I just think if somebody in our generation, well, you are, Artie, you're one of us. Let's see, if someone, well,
I'm delayed. I'm a generation behind that generation, but I'm on the tail end of it.
that's right.
Here's the
very
next
tail end.
generation. Here's my daughter Tori.
Hi there.
Are you a Compton?
She said, she's
And
thinking,
that is what is so strange to me, that your kids are Comptons, that Chad's kids are Comptons.
What'd you want them to
I'm
be?
the Compton. I'm a Compton. You guys can't all have that name.
that's how I felt about my grandmother Chandler, because
Almost kind
we
of
had-
time to eat.
time to eat. We
That's
had cousins, and one cousin was not nice to me, Jeannie Chandler. So she belonged to one of those handsome brothers of grandpa's, but she used to torment me in first grade, and I just hated to even be around her because she was mean. In any case, she called Grandma Aunt Hazel, and I was furious. She's not Aunt Hazel, she's Grandma. You know how jealousy really is silly. But when Grandma died and I was at the burial, I was just standing there, and Jeannie came up to me. I did not recognize her at all. And she said, "Do you remember me, Kamillia? I'm Jeannie." And of course, all kinds of bad memories flooded back. And she said, "Do you remember what I used to do to you?" And she was smiling. Anyway, I don't know what I said to her, but
I'm
She
sure
was-
it was. You guys, I'll just tell you one sweet memory that I have. It's a feeling of the church in Weiser. Have you all seen the church in Weiser? The white church. It's been there and it's been white forever. It seems crazy. Most churches would have been torn down, I think, by now.
Should I pull up a photo of it?
We
Yeah.
all went to that church, and on Sundays after
and it was
church,
our church.
yes, it was ours. We'd walk along, we kids, with our cousins, probably Larry and Elaine and Ann and Gloria. I don't know, but I don't know if it would have been Vicky and Rick or not, but in a group of little kids, we'd walk all the way down to Grandma's house. But
Yeah.
on the way, we crossed over Monroe Creek. And
Yes,
we'd always stop and look over down at the creek. It's just a nice, sweet little memory.
yes, it is, isn't it? And the sidewalk was very cracked. I don't know if you remember that. I remember though, there was a puddle on that very street, and I remember staring into it and almost falling into it because I got dizzy thinking I was looking at the sky. I mean, it was just the oddest feeling. So this is the
It
church.
sounds like
So-
you would have been 80 years old to do that. And then when we'd get close to Grandma's house, we'd smell that roast that was in
Oh,
the
yes.
oven that we cooked every Sunday. It was delicious. Well, John and Vicky came home. Maybe they brought some food.
You
So
know, I
there's-
could wait.
Is
I
that
could wait
is that the
forever and it
church,
wouldn't happen
Kamillia?
to me. Excuse me?
Is that the church?
Yes, that's the church. And I would like to mention some things about the church. In the first place, it was filled with our family. And at that time, I had a tiny, tiny tremor, enough to notice, because I remember trying to get the sacrament glass of water up to my mouth without spilling it. But mainly, I remember the Children's Hospital Penny Drive when we had a birthday, and also the smell of the church, and the smell of the ladies' powders and perfumes and the flowers that were up front. And there's just a feeling that comes with all that. And sometimes I smell fragrances that take me back to that church, because we went there from our earliest years
Huh.
until we moved to Butte. And then when we came back, when Daddy was in the service, we went there again. So it was a wonderful, and the swimming pool that was behind the church, I always thought belonged to us too.
You were poor, but you owned everything.
I know. Anyway, that's a real sweet feeling. Okay, we should let you eat your dinner.
Well, I'll see if I can find one dinner.
You can come to my house, Marcielle. I'll feed you something. I think I've got some onions.
Oh, well, I do love onions. Okay. Well, how nice, how sweet to be with all of you, sort of. I'm sort of with all of you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So yeah, let's do this again. I don't know when you guys want to do it. I could do it I could do it a little bit later tomorrow evening, or actually I could do it tomorrow afternoon, or I could go to next week. My schedule is fairly flexible because I'm self-employed. Oh, here comes my wife, Cheryl.
I'm really good.
Hello,
at
Cheryl. How are you?
Hello, Cheryl.
Hi. I finally got dinner done. Are you proud of me?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Marcielle was just talking about how hungry she was.
Well,
So I guess we have more than onions, Marcielle. We have something else.
onions
Oh.
and squash. and
Squash.
Hamburger.
And
but I
squash.
don't have
Oh
buns or
boy, that
anything
sounds
cooking.
good. That sounds terrific. Well,
Little chick-
I'm thinking about tomorrow. I know I have a Zoom meeting with my art group.
Maybe
But
it's you
that's,
guys.
hi. I think in the afternoon, I'm free. Maybe could we do this time again? Marcielle, are
I
you
would-
still there?
know. I can't really tell about tomorrow because I'm taking my car in to get it serviced. And so whenever they call is when John will take me to go get it.
Well, chances are then you would be back. Well, we started tonight at 6:30 our time. Chances are you would be back by then, I would guess.
Maybe so, probably hope so. Hopefully.
I've got to, I can probably do it at 6:30. I've got to visit with somebody at 6, but I'll be back around 6:30. It might be 6:35 or 6:40, but pretty good chance I could start at 6:30 though.
Just, why don't you just, when
Kamillia,
you're ready,
Leah, and Lynaea.
What was that, Kamillia?
when you're ready, give us a call and see
Well,
if,
let's just plan on 6:30, and if I'm gonna be late, I'll send you a text or something and say, give me 2 minutes or whatever, but I'll bet you I'll be back by 6:30,
what I'm,
Okay,
which
What
is
will you-
5:30 your time, Kamillia.
what I'm afraid of is the momentum. We'll lose momentum, and I don't want that.
Okay.
And I don't think you will, but I might. So anyway, I love you all, and this is really delightful.
I love you all too. I'll miss you tomorrow because I'll be driving. I'll be en route back to Oregon. I'm in Idaho right now, but Lynaea, will you be able to represent us by chance?
Yeah, I can check in.
Okay.
And we'll use the same link.
Okay,
okay.
perfect.
The same link will work. So,
Thank you so much.
okay. All right. Well, thanks
Guys,
everybody.
thank
Love
you.
you.
Have a good night. Okay. Love everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.